Conversation is the fastest path to real English fluency because it forces you to use the language, not just study it. When you're in a conversation, you can't hide behind a textbook or pause to look up grammar rules. You have to think, respond, and express yourself in real time. This is where true growth happens. Fluency isn't built in silence, it's built in motion. Every question you answer, every word you choose, every sentence you form, these are small acts of building fluency. You don't need to speak perfectly to be understood. You need to speak often, and that's what conversation gives you: repetition, correction, rhythm, emotion. It gives you practice that feels like life, not like homework. When you listen and respond in English every day, your brain starts to adjust. Your ears catch the sounds faster. Your mouth shapes the words more easily. You stop translating in your head and start thinking directly in English. That transition doesn't come from memorizing more vocabulary. It comes from using what you already know, and conversation is how you do that. It pulls your English knowledge from your mind and puts it into your mouth. That's fluency, not knowing everything, but being able to use what you know with confidence and ease. Every language learner has a story. Conversation gives it a voice. When you speak, you're not just practicing grammar or pronunciation. You're expressing your thoughts, your experiences, your background. English becomes more than a subject. It becomes a way to share who you are. Many learners stay quiet because they fear sounding wrong, but silence hides their story. When you start speaking, even in simple sentences, your story begins to take shape. Think about it. Every time you answer a question like, "Where are you from?" or "What do you do?" you're giving someone a glimpse into your world. You're connecting, not just communicating. This is how trust is built, and how real language learning happens, through connection, not perfection. Your story doesn't need to be dramatic or perfect, it just needs to be yours. The more you speak it, the stronger it becomes. Conversations are not only about exchanging words, they're about sharing meaning. And when you realize that your story matters, even in basic English, you stop focusing on what you lack and start using what you have. That shift is powerful. It transforms you from a passive learner to an active communicator. Listening well improves speaking naturally. It might seem strange, but the more you listen, the better you speak. That's because listening is how you absorb the rhythm, tone, and flow of real English. You learn how native speakers form sentences, how they pause, how they emphasize certain words. Your brain begins to recognize patterns, not from rules in a book, but from real-life usage. And the more familiar those patterns become, the more naturally you start to speak. When you listen with full attention, you're not just hearing sounds, you're learning the music of the language. You pick up on common phrases, intonation, and even emotions behind the words. These things cannot be taught in a traditional grammar lesson. They are felt through repeated exposure. You don't even have to force it. Your mind does the work in the background, storing expressions and structures that will later come out when you need them. This is why stories and conversations are so effective. They're full of real language, real emotion, and natural pace. Listening helps you build what's called language intuition, the ability to know what sounds right even before you fully understand why. So if you want to speak more smoothly, more confidently, and more naturally, make listening a daily habit. It's not just preparation for speaking, it's part of speaking. Mistakes in conversation are not failures. They are bridges to learning. Every time you say something incorrectly, you give yourself a chance to grow. Mistakes show that you're trying, and trying is how learning becomes real. Without mistakes, there is no progress. The fear of saying the wrong thing keeps many learners silent, but silence doesn't teach you anything. Speaking, even imperfectly, is where real learning happens. When a child learns to speak, they don't get everything right. They stumble, they guess, they laugh, and no one expects perfection. Yet as adults, we often expect ourselves to speak without flaw. That's unrealistic, and it's also unnecessary. What matters more than perfect grammar is clear communication. If someone understands what you mean, even with a mistake, then you've succeeded. And over time, the mistakes become fewer because you're learning from them. Each error is feedback. It helps your brain adjust. It shows you what works and what doesn't. But you can only get that feedback if you open your mouth. A mistake in a conversation is not a wall blocking your path. It's a step forward, a lesson wrapped in a moment. So instead of avoiding mistakes, welcome them, smile at them, learn from them, because every mistake made in English is a brick laid on the road to fluency. Stories make learning English easier, deeper, and more human. When you learn through stories, you remember more because stories touch your emotions, not just your memory. They have characters, feelings, and situations you can relate to. That connection helps the language stick. You don't just learn words, you feel them, understand them in context, and remember how they were used. That's how true learning happens. A story is not a grammar lesson, but it teaches grammar. It's not a vocabulary list, but it teaches vocabulary. Why? Because it shows you how the language lives in the real world. It's not abstract, it's practical, alive, and meaningful, and most importantly, it's interesting. When you're interested, your mind is more alert. You focus better, you enjoy the process, and when you enjoy learning, you learn faster. Also, stories teach culture. They show how people think, what they value, how they communicate. And language is not just words. It's a reflection of how people live and connect. Listening to stories in English gives you a window into that world. Telling your own stories gives others a window into your world. So if learning feels boring or difficult, don't give up. Change your method. Start with a story. Listen to one, read one, tell one. Because through stories, English stops being just a subject and starts becoming a part of who you are. Confidence grows when you practice speaking, not just memorizing. You can know hundreds of words and still feel nervous when it's time to use them. Why? Because confidence doesn't come from what you know. It comes from what you do. When you speak English regularly, even in small ways, you start to feel more comfortable. The fear begins to fade. The hesitation softens, and the words start to come more naturally. Many learners think they need to study more before they can speak, but the truth is, speaking is part of the study. It's how you train your brain to find the words quickly. It's how you teach your mouth to move with the language, and it's how you teach yourself to trust your own voice. Every time you say something in English, even if it's not perfect, you are sending a powerful message to your mind. I can do this. Think of it like building a muscle. You don't get stronger by reading about exercise. You get stronger by moving. In the same way, your English confidence gets stronger by speaking, not once a month, not once a week, but often, daily. With friends, with teachers, with yourself in the mirror if you have to. It all counts, and it all adds up. You don't have to be fluent to start speaking. You have to start speaking to become fluent. Confidence is not the result of waiting. It's the reward of showing up again and again and letting your voice grow stronger with every word. Real people, real topics. That's where real learning happens. You can study English from a book, but if you never use it in real conversations, it stays locked in theory. Language was made for people, not for tests or for perfection. It was made to connect hearts, solve problems, share ideas, and build relationships. And the best way to learn it is by talking about real things with real people. When you speak about your life, your family, your hobbies, your dreams, you use language that's meaningful to you. That kind of English sticks because it's tied to emotion and experience. You remember words better when they're part of your story. You remember phrases better when they help you explain your thoughts. And you grow faster because you're not just practicing, you're living the language. Speaking about real topics also teaches you how English actually works in the world. Not textbook English, not perfect sentences, but the kind of English that people use every day, simple, direct, and full of expression. It helps you understand humor, tone, attitude, and it teaches you to respond, not just recite. So, don't wait for the perfect lesson. Talk about your weekend. Ask someone about their day. Share your favorite movie, or what made you laugh this morning. These real conversations may seem small, but they are the heart of language learning. They bring English to life, and they bring your voice into it. You don't need perfect grammar to start a powerful conversation. Many learners believe they must speak flawlessly before they can truly communicate, but that belief only creates delay and doubt. The truth is, communication is about connection, not perfection. If someone understands what you're saying, the grammar doesn't have to be exact. Meaning comes first. Grammar improves with time. Think about how people speak in their native language. It's not always grammatically correct. They interrupt themselves. They repeat words. They pause and change their minds. And yet, the message still gets through. English works the same way. Your goal isn't to impress people with perfect sentences. It's to express your thoughts, feelings, and ideas in a way that matters. When you focus too much on grammar, you hesitate. You stop yourself from speaking. You overthink, and the conversation moves on without you. But when you focus on sharing your message clearly and confidently, you begin to participate. And each time you do, your grammar improves naturally. You hear the right structure, you practice it, and slowly it becomes part of how you speak. Don't let grammar be a wall between you and your words. Let conversation be the door. Because every powerful conversation begins with one simple act: the courage to speak, even if it's not perfect. The more you listen, the more your brain learns the rhythm of English. Language is not just about words, it's about flow, tone, and timing. When you listen often, your mind starts to catch the patterns: how questions sound, how people pause, how emotions shape the voice. You begin to understand the music of the language, not just the vocabulary. And once you feel the rhythm, speaking becomes easier. Just like a song, English has a beat. Native speakers stretch certain words, drop others, and speak in waves, not like the slow, careful sentences you find in a textbook. By listening regularly, you train your ears to hear those waves. You start to predict what comes next. Your responses become faster. Your speech becomes smoother, not because you memorized rules, but because you absorbed the rhythm. It's like dancing. You don't learn by reading steps on paper. You learn by watching, listening, and moving with the beat. English is the same. The more you listen, the more your brain begins to move in sync with the language. So surround yourself with English: stories, conversations, podcasts, movies. Let the sound of it wash over you every day. Without even realizing it, you'll start to speak in rhythm, and that rhythm will carry your fluency forward.